This is the 22nd video on this channel. Across the previous 21, we have covered many medicinal plants from every major civilization on Earth: Greek, Egyptian, Ayurvedic, Biblical, Chinese, Indigenous, Roman, Ottoman, Japanese, African, Persian. We have explored ancient pain remedies, ancient teas, anti-inflammatory plants, and the cross-civilizational patterns that defined human medicine for 5,000 years. But there is one thing we have not discussed yet. Some of those plants are disappearing, right now, not in some distant future, in our lifetimes. The medicines that survived the rise and fall of empires, the burning of libraries, and the loss of entire civilizations are now being lost to something far more mundane: habitat destruction, overharvesting, climate change. This is educational content, not medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before using any herbal remedy. Today we are covering 10 of the rarest medicinal plants still growing wild on Earth. Plants that ancient healers prized above almost anything else. Plants that may not exist much longer. Stay until the end, because number 10 is a plant that the Roman Empire used into extinction, and that scientists believe may have just been rediscovered. If you are new here, welcome to the Green Domain, where ancient wisdom meets modern science. Subscribe to the channel to help us map the vanishing history of human medicine before it is lost entirely. Let us begin. Number 1. Snow Lotus, Saussurea laniceps. Snow lotus grows above 10,000 feet in the Himalayas and on the Tibetan Plateau, on alpine ski slopes, where almost nothing else can survive. In Tibetan and traditional Chinese medicine, snow lotus has been prescribed for centuries for high-altitude sickness, joint inflammation, and pain. A 2005 study found that Saussurea laniceps has significant anti-inflammatory and pain-relieving effects. But the plant has a problem. It takes 7 to 10 years to mature, then it flowers once, and then it dies. Pickers have been harvesting it faster than it can reproduce. Across 2 decades, the average size of harvested snow lotus has been shrinking, which is a classic sign of over-harvesting. A plant that took a decade to grow is now being taken before it can even reproduce. Number 2. Wild Ginkgo, Ginkgo biloba. This is one of the strangest entries on this entire list, because almost everyone has heard of Ginkgo. It is one of the best-selling herbal supplements in the world. You can buy Ginkgo extract at any pharmacy in any country. But here is the part most people do not know. Wild Ginkgo is critically endangered. The species we know today is essentially a living fossil. Ginkgo trees existed 200 million years ago. They survived the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. They survived ice ages, supercontinents, and the rise of every animal species that ever walked the earth. But in the wild, they have nearly disappeared. Genuinely wild ginkgo populations are believed to survive only in a small region of southwestern China, mostly in the Tianmu Mountains. Every other ginkgo tree on Earth, the ones in parks, gardens, and city streets across the world, came from cultivation by humans, primarily by Chinese Buddhist monks, who recognized the tree's significance more than 1,000 years ago. If those monks had not preserved ginkgo, this 200-million-year-old species might already be extinct. Number 3. Pacific yew, Taxus brevifolia. The Pacific yew grows in the old-growth forests of the Pacific Northwest of North America. It is a slow-growing, unassuming tree that for most of human history was considered a weed until 1971. That year, scientists isolated a compound from Pacific yew bark called paclitaxel. It is now sold under the name Taxol. It is one of the most important chemotherapy drugs ever developed. It is used to treat breast cancer, ovarian cancer, lung cancer, and other tumors. It is on the World Health Organization list of essential medicines. To produce enough paclitaxel for the original clinical trials, researchers had to harvest the bark of approximately 3 Pacific yew trees to treat a single patient. The harvesting was destroying entire forests. Today, paclitaxel is produced through semi-synthesis and cell cultures, which saved the Pacific yew from extinction. Think about that for a moment. The same scientific drive that nearly destroyed this tree is also what saved it. but a tree that grows in one rainforest on one continent turned out to contain a molecule that has saved millions of lives. Imagine what else might be hiding in the forests we have not yet tested. We are still in the early entries, and we have already covered 3 plants that nearly disappeared before science finished studying them. Number 4. Costus Root. Saussurea costus. Costus root, known in India as Kuth or Aucklandia, has been used in Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years for asthma, inflammation, and digestive disorders. It is one of the oldest documented medicinal plants in the Indian subcontinent. It is listed on Ayurvedic ingredient registries that predate the Roman Empire, but the wild population in the Himalayas is critically endangered. The plant is now listed on Appendix 1 of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, the most restrictive level of protection for any species under that treaty. Appendix 1 means the international trade in wild specimens is prohibited. That is the same legal protection given to tigers, elephants, and giant pandas. A medicinal plant with the same legal protection as a tiger. Number 5. Wild Cordyceps. Ophiocordyceps sinensis. This one is so strange that it sounds like science fiction. Cordyceps is not a plant, it is a fungus. But it is included on this list because it is one of the most prized substances in all of traditional Chinese medicine. Cordyceps infects ghost moth caterpillars living high on the Himalayan and Tibetan plateaus. The fungus consumes the caterpillar from the inside, mummifies it, and then sends up a fruiting body that emerges from the dead host. Traditional Chinese physicians have used cordyceps for over 1,500 years to treat fatigue, kidney problems, respiratory disorders, and as a longevity tonic. Wild cordyceps is now one of the most expensive medicinal substances on Earth. Premium grade cordyceps can sell for more than $20,000 per pound. That value has triggered a harvesting crisis across the Tibetan plateau, where local communities depend on cordyceps for income, but face declining yields year after year. A fungus that grows out of a caterpillar's head at 15,000 feet elevation became more valuable than gold, and now it is being collected faster than it can reproduce. Number 6. Indian Sandalwood, Santalum album. If you have ever smelled a high-end perfume, an incense stick, or an Ayurvedic skin product, you have probably encountered sandalwood. Indian sandalwood has been used in religious, cosmetic, and medicinal traditions for over 3,000 years. In Ayurveda, it is prescribed for skin conditions, inflammation, fever, and as a cooling agent during meditation and ritual. But Indian sandalwood is now vulnerable to extinction in the wild. The tree grows slowly, taking 30 years or more to develop the aromatic heartwood that gives it its value. Overharvesting, smuggling, and illegal logging have devastated wild populations in southern India. The Indian government has placed strict export controls on sandalwood. Most of what is sold today is either farmed in Australia or carries questionable provenance. A tree central to Indian religious and medicinal life for 3,000 years is now harder to find in the wild than at almost any point in recorded history. Number 7. Agarwood, Aquilaria. This is the most expensive wood on Earth. Agarwood, also known as oud, or aloes wood, is not simply a wood. It is a resinous heartwood that forms when Aquilaria trees are infected by a specific type of mold. The infected tree produces an aromatic resin that has been used for over 2,000 years in traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, Middle Eastern perfumery, and Buddhist and Islamic religious ceremonies. High-grade agarwood can sell for more than $100,000 per kilogram. That makes it more valuable than gold by weight. The combination of slow growth, the requirement for fungal infection, and the destructive harvesting required to extract the resin has pushed multiple Aquilaria species toward critical endangerment. All Aquilaria species were placed on Appendix 2 of CITES in 2004. The most expensive natural product in the perfume industry is also one of the most threatened. We are past the halfway point. And the final 3 plants represent something even more important. These are the plants where ancient medicine, modern science, and the future of biodiversity all converge. Number 8. Wild American Ginseng, Panax quinquefolius. American ginseng was used by Native American tribes for centuries before European contact. When Chinese traders learned of its existence in the 1700s, demand from China became so intense that American ginseng became one of the most valuable exports from colonial North America. Today, wild American ginseng populations are protected under CITES Appendix 2. Legal harvest is heavily regulated, yet the demand continues. A single mature wild ginseng root can sell for hundreds of dollars on the black market, which has driven poaching across Appalachia. A plant used in two ancient medical traditions on two continents is now hunted across American forests, the way endangered animals are hunted across Africa and Asia. Number 9. Sacred frankincense. Boswellia sacra. Across this entire series, we have discussed frankincense multiple times in the Egyptian, biblical, Ottoman, and Ayurvedic videos, but each of those references typically described Boswellia serrata, the Indian frankincense. This entry is different. Boswellia sacra is the true frankincense of the ancient world, the species that grows in southern Oman, in Yemen, and on the island of Socotra. This is the resin that Queen Hatshepsut sent fleets across the Red Sea to obtain. The resin offered to the infant Jesus by the Magi. The resin that traveled the incense routes of antiquity from Arabia to the Mediterranean. But Boswellia sacra is now vulnerable. Overharvesting, beetle infestation, climate stress, and political instability in Yemen have all damaged wild populations. Researchers have estimated that frankincense production could decline by half within the next 2 decades if current trends continue. The same resin that crossed the ancient world for 2,000 years may not survive the next 50. Number 10. Silphium. I told you at the beginning that number 10 was a plant that the Roman Empire used into extinction, or at least we thought it had. Silphium was the most prized medicinal plant of the ancient Mediterranean. The Greeks and Romans used it for digestion, contraception, fever, and as a general health tonic. It was so valuable that the city of Cyrene, which controlled the Silphium trade, put the plant's image on its coins. Silphium was so important that Pliny the Elder lamented its disappearance in the 1st century AD. It was the first documented case of a species being harvested into extinction. For nearly 2,000 years, Silphium was considered lost forever, until recently. In 2021, a researcher named Mahmut Miski published findings on a plant he had been studying in central Turkey for over 2 decades. A plant called Ferula drudeana. It grows in a small area near Mount Erciyes. It has the same yellow flowers as ancient coins depict. It produces a similar resin, and early chemical analysis suggests it has many of the medicinal compounds ancient texts attributed to Silphium. Miski believes Ferula drudeana may be the same plant that the Romans drove to extinction across North Africa 2,000 years ago. A small population survived in the mountains of Turkey, where no one thought to look. Whether or not it is the original Silphium, the rediscovery story captures something essential about every plant on this list. We do not always know what we are losing, and sometimes what we thought was lost is still out there, hidden, waiting. And that completes our journey through 10 of the rarest medicinal plants still growing wild today. When we started this channel, the goal was simple: to take the medicines of the ancient world and put them to the test with modern science. Across 21 videos before this one, we have done exactly that. Many plants, thousands of years of tradition, and consistent validation from peer-reviewed research. But this video closes the series with a different message. The ancient pharmacopoeia is not just history, it is a living inheritance. It exists in real forests, mountains, and deserts that we are still in the process of mapping, and much of it is at risk. The good news is this: you do not have to be a botanist or a conservation scientist to protect ancient medicine. You can buy responsibly sourced products. You can support sustainable harvesting practices. You can grow medicinal plants at home to reduce demand on wild populations. And you can keep learning, because public attention is one of the strongest forms of protection any plant can have. If you have made it to the end of this video, and especially if you have watched the other 19 on this channel, you are now part of a small group of people who understand both the science and the stakes of ancient plant medicine. That is exactly the audience we built this channel for. Subscribe to the Green Domain, because this is not the end of our journey. It is the end of the first chapter. Drop a comment and tell me which plant from this entire series surprised you the most. I read every comment, and your responses shape what we cover next. Ancient wisdom, modern proof, real results.